Hello everyone. In today's lesson, we'll talk about telling stories with narrative tenses. So in this video, you'll learn the different tenses that we use to tell a story. So there are different tenses that we use when telling a story, and we'll talk about all of these in this video. Okay, so we'll start with the contents of this video. In this video, we'll talk about, we have different topics. The first one is what are narrative tenses, and then we'll talk about number 2, the past simple, 3, the past continuous, 4, the past perfect simple, and the last one is going to be the past perfect continuous. So, first of all, what are narrative tenses? Narrative tenses are used to describe past events. They are typically used to tell stories or narrate anecdotes. So, we use past or narrative tenses. We want to write or tell a story or narrate anecdotes. An anecdote is a short story most of the time that could give somebody who reads it a lesson that they learn from. Okay, so the first tense we're going to talk about is the past simple. We use the past simple tense to narrate first, completed actions in the past. Second, past events in chronological order. 3. Past habits and past states. So, when I say my family and I went to the Alps last year, I am given an example of a completed action in the past because we just went to the Alps last year. This is an action that was finished and that happened last year. Another example is we skied in the mountains in the morning. This is also a completed action in the past. So we skied in the mountains in the morning. Another example is they trained from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then had lunch. If we look at this, we'll see that there is a specific time and two actions because we have two actions which happened one after the other and both of them happened in the past. These two actions happened in chronological order. So there is a chronological order. We'll say like first, and for example, can you say first, then after that, show the chronological order of how happened or how events happen. The last example is when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, this is a past state because I'm not a kid anymore. Now let's see at the picture. He's not a kid anymore. So when I was a kid, I was a kid, so it's a past state. I never wore jeans. So this is a past habit. In the past, I never wore jeans as a habit. That was true in the past. I never wore jeans. Then I didn't like them. This is also a past state. Maybe I do like them now, but in the past, I didn't like them. So this is how we use the past simple to narrate events in the past. The second tense we use in narrating events is the past continuous. So we use the past continuous tense too. First of all, to set the background to a story, describe a scene or situation that lasted for some time, refer to an ongoing action which was interrupted by another one. So these are the three usages of the past continuous. Let's look at these examples. It was a cold winter morning. It was snowing heavily. So this is setting the scene or setting the background to a story. So it was a cold winter morning. It was snowing heavily. This is what describes the setting of the story. Then they were living together in those days, but then split up. So it describes scene or situation that lasted for some time. So those days they were living together, but then they split up. The last usage says refer to an ongoing action which was interrupted by another one. I was taking a bath when you phoned. So when you phoned, I was taking a bath. So um, your phone call happened when I was taking a bath. So this is to refer to an action that was interrupted by another one. And of course, when you phone, I might leave the bath and then so that I can answer your call. So this is the past continuous. Then we have the third tense, which is the past perfect simple. We use the past perfect simple tense to refer to events that took place before another event in the past, or past states and situations that started earlier in the past. So let's look at these examples. When we arrived at the airport, the plane had already left. So this is two actions, one happened before the other. We usually use the past perfect for the action which happens before the other one. So first I arrived, or the plane had already left before I arrived at the airport. Okay, so these are two actions. Another example is I had never seen such beauty before. Past states and situations that started earlier in the past. So this is I had never seen such beauty before. Okay, so this is another action or use of the past perfect simple. We also use the past perfect simple. Again, as we said, they are past states and situations that started earlier in the past. Another example is we'd worked together for 30 years before he retired. So we had worked together for 30 years before he retired. This is also they started earlier in the past. Past states and situations that started earlier in the past. For 30 years we had worked together. Okay, the fourth tense that we also use to narrate events is the past perfect continuous. So we use the past perfect continuous to describe events that were happening over a long period of time before another event in the past. So events that were happening over a long period of time before another event in the past. So examples, negotiations had been going on for months before our company agreed to merge. So had been going on, it was happening over a long period of time before another event in the past. So what was happening is negotiations had been going on, and what happened after is our company agreed to merge. So this is the past perfect continuous here. Another example is they had been exchanging love letters before they finally got married in 1920. And the last one is going to be we'd been walking for hours when we finally found the hotel. So these are the last tense we're talking about, which is the past perfect continuous, and we have looked at some examples with using the past perfect continuous. So that is the usage of the four tenses. We'll look at some examples or some practice now. You have an image here. I want you to look at the image. Can you describe the situation? Work with the working groups. You can use this in your class. Here are some ideas to guide your discussion. So look at the weather. What was the weather like that day? Where were they? Where were they going? How were they feeling? What had they done before calling the taxi? What were they doing when the taxi arrived? So you look at the picture and write something. As an example, we'll look at an example here. So here's a model short story based on the picture you have here. It was a sunny spring morning in New York. Chad and Noah were going on their dream trip to Europe. They had been planning it for years. They were so excited that the day had finally come. They had called a taxi to take them to the airport, and they were waiting for it on the sidewalk. When it arrived, their adventure had finally started. So this is an example describing the picture we have in front of us. So that was all about the narrative tenses, and happy storytelling.